This one's wife. Offical. Such attention to detail. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. This one's wife likes to portray herself as having a freakish attention to detail. Once again, crowing about her abilities, she has told us that she has this great eye for detail. And of course, this has been borne out time and time again by her behaviour. For instance, wearing clothing that doesn't fit her, clothing that is too long for her, clothing that drags along the ground, clothing that is heavily creased. Releasing promotional materials for the shitty brand as ever that has Offical rather than official. That she attempts to convince us of this close attention to detail by virtue of sharing video footage of herself checking the packaging for as ever as she speed reads through it, meaning that she clearly doesn't actually look at any of the words whatsoever, and once again another performative example of this one's wife trying to tell us that she's brilliant at something. Now, it is the case that the perception that you have of yourself may well vary from the perception that other people have of you, but it's not a complete break in reality, if you will. So, for instance, you might think that you're a friendly and outgoing individual, and there'll be other people who would agree with you. But to an introverted person, they might regard you as somewhat overbearing. This is a difference in perception with regard to your behaviour, but isn't a detachment from reality. This one's wife was memorably described, I think it was by Graydon Carter, as being somewhat adrift from reality. And this is, as I've explained to you previously, as a consequence of the fact that her narcissism perceives the world, when it comes to the issue of control, through a distortion field and an alternative matrix, which causes her to invent things, revise history, tell lies, make promises that won't be kept, and perceive herself in a way that is completely detached from the way that other people see her. She thinks, and she genuinely believes this, that she is a kind and wonderful person. Any suggestion that she isn't is immediately rejected, sifted out, if you will, by her narcissism, and put in the box, hater, racist, misogynist. It doesn't compute. If you were to present her with evidence of her being unpleasant, she will either say, didn't happen, or they started it first, or, well, I can see that to you that might look like I was being unpleasant, but you weren't there, so you don't fully understand what went on. Or, well, there was a little bit of an overreaction, I might admit, but I was tired that day. There is never an admission that is without caveat or condition. Quite simply, her narcissism causes her to regard herself in a way which is different from the way that everybody else sees her. Now, of course, there are her flunkies that will see some of her behaviours, but what happens there is that because they've nailed their colours to the mast of supporting her, or because they have a vested interest because they are a supplier to her, they don't want to acknowledge the poor behaviour, and they will explain it away as being caused by something else. So, for instance, this one's wife's propensity to keep talking about herself, they will just say, no, I find her interesting. They may well see, yeah, I know she talks about herself a lot, but I can't be seen to criticise her because I do her hair and I want to continue to make money from her. So the supporters and flunkies recognise her shortcomings. They just, if you will, choose to look in the other direction in relation to it. But that's not the case with this one's wife. She is genuinely deluded. And what happens is that this is what proves to be her undoing, because she can't keep her stories straight. Now, for other narcissists, this doesn't present as much as a problem, because they're not in the press every day. They're not being filmed. They're not being reported on. Indeed, their inconsistencies are generally aimed at, for example, the intimate partner primary source. And therefore, they end up thinking that they are the ones that have got it wrong. Because the narcissist will say to them, no, You're misremembering. You're not getting it correctly. And those of you who have been involved with a narcissist will understand that when you're caught in the maelstrom, you do start to question whether you're the one that's got it wrong, that you're the one that's misunderstood. Because the narcissist seems so convinced, so absolutely sure that they are right and you are wrong, that causes you to consider you must be the one that's got it incorrect. Furthermore, the narcissist is so definite about their view because of the black and white thinking, you see in shades of grey, which means that you're more likely to think, well, I could have contributed to this problem, perhaps it is my fault. The narcissist is completely incapable of seeing that they have got it wrong. But most narcissists operate at a smaller scale compared to that of this one's wife, so that the lies that they tell are often only picked up on by, say, one person, or that where there are lies amongst different people, they're never allowed to interact with one another because of the compartmentalization that the narcissist applies to their life. So that the mistress never gets to speak to the wife, who gets to speak to the other mistress. They're kept apart from one another, and therefore the lies and the untruths never get shared. But for this one's wife, because she courts such exposure, naturally driven by her narcissism, this means on a daily basis we get to see her in the press, across social media, on podcasts, on Instagram, and there are a legion of fact checkers, all waiting to examine her behaviour and point out, wait a minute, that doesn't sit straight with what she said last month, or what she said a year ago, or she's saying this now, but she said that earlier. She gets fact-checked and exposed. She lacks the calculation, she lacks the intelligence, and her narcissism overall lacks the ability to keep the lies consistent, because all it cares about is the operation in the moment. She can tell lie 1 at this point, and then lie 2, which contradicts lie 1 at a later juncture, but that doesn't matter, because lie 1 is now irrelevant. What matters to her is the importance of the pursuit of the prime aims in that moment. And we have another example demonstrating how, because of the way that her narcissism functions, she believes that she has an attention to detail, but she doesn't actually. And she gets caught out time and time again. She wants you to believe that she has a brilliant attention to detail because that is how she sees herself. She regards herself as fantastic at everything that she does. And then there's this unfortunate thing called the evidence, which shows that she's not. Witness the way that she looked at the packaging. Witness Offical. Witness the labels on the jam that didn't go on straight, the cheapness of the products, so on and so forth. And here, there's another example, as you can see in the thumbnail, which was highlighted by Tamarindos9 on Twitter. If you're listening, Tam, hello, and thank you for supporting my work. Tam regularly comments on my work on X and shares it, so appreciation for doing so. And Tam pointed out that in the recent podcast that took place with Jamie Kern-Lima, we have a brilliant example of this one's wife demonstrating her supposed attention to detail. As you can see in the thumbnail, she's slapped on the bronzer whilst her arm is a completely different colour. And as Tam observed on X, she forgot to put no makeup on her arms. It's laughable. We know she put makeup on. She put tons of bronzer on to make her face look darker and then didn't put it on her arms or her hand, so that when she typically over-emotes because of her misfiring narcissism and raises one of her oversized man hands, shearing through the air like a pissed-up ninja, we get that complete contrast, which first of all shows you are wearing makeup, so you've told a lie. 2, you're using the bronzer again to make yourself look browner than you actually are. And 3, you don't have any attention to detail because you've just tripped up once again. It is Offical, as this one's wife would say. She has no attention to detail, and once again, it's a collateral consequence of her narcissism. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.